was in every box of Kellogg's Corn Flakes.
No human being had a bowl of dry breakfast cereal prior to 1906. Cereal was invented by the Kellogg's brothers, and it was actually these companies that convinced people the healthiest way to start your morning was a bowl of cereal with milk.
Like where I grew up in Arkansas, there was no black or white. We're all broke, okay? What's your color? Poor, okay? You know, that's the truth of the matter, you know? When you eat your cereal out of a Cool Whip bowl stained with chili or spaghetti sauce, does it really matter if you're black or you're white? You're broke.
My boy, they all went to Christian school, and they would teach my children about intentional dating. I never heard of that. I dated anybody that bought me a hamburger.
Oh, I love those clips. I must be hungry. Food's on the brain right now. I'm live today, and of course, yesterday, Memorial Day, and to all you veterans out there, that day is about you. It's not about barbecues. Everyone wants to think so, but it's about you, and I really appreciate your service out there. I really do. I've had a lot of people in my family serve, and it means a lot to me that you're willing to do it, and that you are willing to represent this country, and you did it with a heart of gold. And I know you did, because that's why people are drawn to that. Now, what they do in our name, as far as the intelligence agencies stirring up war, that's a completely different topic. The topic of Memorial Day is all about you and all about those that paid dearly for this country. So I really appreciate you. You're on my mind yesterday and today, and welcome to the show. Of course, open phone lines today. I have two guests for you. We're live today. I've got Mel Mattison today, and the book is Quaz, and of course, get the book. But Mel is on, and then followed by him, Janet Phelan, who she's never been on the show before, and it's the targeting of water, poisons in our water, and how the delivery service of targeting that water to have certain things in it. And so we'll be talking to her, and that's going to be an explosive hour in the next hour. The phone lines are open, 888-673-1450. If you're listening in the afternoon, live on the radio, 888-673-1450. And so appreciate you tuning in today. We're on a Tuesday, and Mel Mattison, I'm so happy to have you on the show. How are you?
Doing great, Kate. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Okay, so we have a Bitcoin conference this week. We have all kinds of stuff. Here we're sitting pretty much in the middle of 2025, which I can't believe, because I don't even know where the beginning part of this year went. It just went so fast. But I know people, whenever you're on, they want to know about money. They want to know about what's going on with the economy. And oftentimes, and I'm going to say mostly, I mean, I can't point to a time that you were wrong with some of the predictions you make. And I know you don't have a crystal ball, but with some of the predictions you make about what we're going to look at with gold and silver, what we're seeing with different things. I always appreciate that, because then looking back, you're right on the money. I mean, I hate to use that pun. It's terrible, but it's the truth. And so where do you want to start? Now, we've talked a little bit about the big, beautiful bill. I did last week too, about some of the things that people were sold on with the idea of the big, beautiful bill. And then, of course, some of the things that are atrocious. What did you want to point out? Because it's been 2 weeks since you've been on. So I just wanted to see what you wanted to point out about that.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think,
Sure.
The big, beautiful bill, in a weird way, it actually ties in with Bitcoin. It ties in with this bill that is also going through Congress right now called the Genius Act. It's basically
You've mentioned this.
Legalization. Yeah, it's a legalization and a regulation around stable coins, which are, blockchain tokens that are essentially backed up with U.S. Treasury bills, so short-term U.S. debt. So, how does all that tie in is, I think a lot of people recognize, and I know we talked about this in the beginning. We talked about when there was a lot of hoopla around Elon and Doge going to cut spending. And I was saying, no, not so fast. When you add in entitlements, when you look at Social Security, Medicare, interest on the debt, veterans benefits, interest, we talked about interest, but the defense spending, you take all of that and you're left with somewhere around 700-800 billion dollars in the entire budget. And so it's very hard to cut $1 trillion or $2 trillion when Donald Trump and every other politician
Mm-hmm.
has promised not to cut the rest of it. And so
Mm-hmm.
basically this bill has a lot more spending. I think it ultimately is counterintuitively going to be good for the economy,
Mm-hmm.
though it probably will also be inflationary. And what the government is worried about is, what are we going to do with all of this debt? Because a lot of foreign countries are not as interested in buying it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're really starting to push these stable coins, because everybody that uses a stable coin, they're going to be essentially take the stablecoin companies take that money and they buy US debt. They buy like 3-month debt or 6-month debt or 1-month debt.
Mm-hmm.
They buy short-term debt with it. And this is all being codified so that a stablecoin has to buy US debt. It has to be held in the banking institutions, custodied with a JP Morgan or a Citibank,
Mm-hmm.
so that it can be part of the reserves. And so this is just one way that the government is looking, how are we going to finance ourselves? Because we're going to be running these big deficits. And so we've got ourselves in this situation where the stock market's looking at it and saying, hey, it's spend, baby, spend time.
Mm-hmm.
Government's going to be, defense contractors going up. Everything's going up because money's getting pumped into the system. And I think, it's not ultimately a moral call I'm trying to make here about what's happening. I'm just describing the situation as I see it. And as long as the U.S. government is promising to spend,
Right.
spend, I think the stock market is going to continue going up, up, up. And I think it also is going to make things like gold go up as well.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. I'm with you on that. I think you're right on that. Let me take a caller. Okay. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead. Caller, you are live. Going once. All right. Going twice. Okay. They always get shy. What can I say? Okay. So stablecoin, interesting. And they're going to keep pushing it, pushing it, pushing it. Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So one of the things that in the Senate, it passed with well over 60 votes. So like
Mm-hmm.
like I've said before, anytime you start getting things that are bipartisan support, you have senators from Wyoming and New
Mm-hmm.
York, New York Democrats and Wyoming Republicans agreeing this is a great idea,
Mm-hmm.
then this is something that's important to the establishment. It's really because they know that the government needs new buyers of its debt. And by getting Americans to start to use stable coins, they're hoping that the public is going to be doing that buying.
Hmm. Okay. Well, I don't know. This it's going to get interesting this year. And they kept, we talked about this, I think in April, they kept talking about this fall, this fall, this fall. Why this preoccupation with this fall? It just seems kind of strange. It's like, I don't know, just references to something in the fall happening. I'm not quite sure what that means. I don't know. Have you heard that? I don't know. Strange.
Well, no, I do think that there's things on the horizon, whether it's going to be some of the expiry of some of these pauses on tariffs that have been put in
Mm-hmm.
place. We have the debt ceiling limit, which is part of the big beautiful bill.
Mm-hmm.
And so if these things don't go precisely smoothly, there could be some jitters. I think ultimately they will be worked out, but I also think, it's very important to just recognize this huge crypto push and
Okay.
how big it is. So you mentioned the Bitcoin conference. So every year there's one major Bitcoin conference. Last year it was in Nashville. Donald Trump spoke at it. He announced America was going to be the crypto capital of the world.
Mm-hmm.
This year, JD Vance is going to be the headline speaker at it. And Donald Trump's company, DJT, his media company, just announced today they're going to be raising $2.5 billion in the
Mm-hmm.
markets so that they can go out and buy Bitcoin. So his company can start
Okay.
buying Bitcoin. So there's this whole huge crypto push in
Okay.
Congress, in the Senate, with the executive branch, with the stablecoin bill. And this is all
Right.
part and parcel of the recognition that we're heading for like a monetary breaking point, and these are the band-aids that are
Okay.
being put onto the system so that the whole house of cards doesn't fall down.
Interesting. Okay. Hi, caller. Welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Hello?
Caller, you're live. Yep.
Am I on live?
You're live. Yes.
Oh, well, I'm trying to reach you because I've been trying to get some ivermectin for about 6 months.
Oh my gosh. Why don't you email
I
me?
finally got a phone number.
Okay, email me at kate@katedalleyradio.com. Kate@katedalleyradio.com, and we'll help you out. Just email me. Really appreciate that. I can sense the frustration. I felt bad for him. So just email me if you have any questions about getting ivermectin at allfamilypharmacy.com. Just email me. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay. We will take your calls, 888-673-1450. And yeah, it'll be interesting kind of looking at this fall. I don't know why, but I've just heard several references and several things. And by the way, I just wanted people to know that Kennedy is out there talking, Maha, out there talking about that COVID vaccines are no longer recommended for healthy children and pregnant women. And I'm going to go as far as to say that if he's saying that about pregnant women and children, that they're probably not safe for any of you. So I just want to just like reference that right out of the gate. But yes, he said no longer recommended for healthy children and pregnant women. What does that tell you? Anyways, I just wanted people to know that the AP was forced to put that in the articles today. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So Mel, I just wanted to let people know that because I don't think a lot of people are maybe even looking at just what's just come out in the news, but that barely just came out. So there you go. But that's great. At least they're on starting to make people aware that these things are dangerous. Be right back. More with Mel Mattison when I come back. And of course, if you have any questions, would love to hear from you. 888-673-1450. 888-673-1450 is the call-in live number today. Be right back. More with Mel Mattison. The book is Quaz, melmattison.com, katedalleyradio.com.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Show today, and then Janet Phelan in the next hour. And also, I just wanted to mention, just like the caller asked, allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. And you use the code Kate and the number 10, all in one. Kate 10. And what that does is it gets you scripts right to your door. It gets you as much ivermectin as you want to buy. It gives you a great price because you're getting 10% off, Kate 10. And allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. This is a great way to get those types of things. Fembenzenol and ivermectin you should probably do together to be most effective. And I'm just telling you, order always when the supplies are there. This is a good time to order. Everybody's preoccupied with summer and vacations and everything right now. If I were you, this would be a great time to prep, seriously, for anything that comes our way. And I do think things are coming our way. There's no doubt about that. I've got Mel Mattison on, and caller, hold on for just a moment. You, on the break, you were mentioning the threatening of tariffs and basically what's going on today with the market because of what happened over the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, everything, the market has just become very obsessed with anything that's happening in Washington, D.C., whether it's the tariff policy, whether it's the spending/tax cut bill that's going through Congress right now and is in the Senate. So all those headlines, all those tweets move things. We had, a decent sized drop last week. The market was roughly down about 2.6%. Today, we got a lot of that back because over the weekend, Trump said, "Oh, I threatened to raise tariffs 50% against Europe, but I'm going to hold back on those until July, on the request of the head of the EU." So whatever news is coming out, tweets are coming out. That's what the market is moving off these days. It's very divorced from a lot of, typical market fundamental type stuff.
Okay, we're going to take your calls, your questions for Mel specifically. Okay, caller, go right ahead. What's your question for Mel Mattison?
Yes, Mel, I do have a question. Earlier in the show, you were talking, and rightfully so, about the increase in the debt that's occurring. It's not only an increase, it's an increase in the rate of the debt. And you've also talked about this is not a sustainable situation. It can completely collapse our economy. Then you mentioned inflation is going to be going up as a result of these bills this bill that recently passed. And then we also have, as you're talking about now, the cost of goods and services going up on this huge tariff tax that's imposed. Trump is illegally, he's an outlaw. President Trump has increased tariffs on 125 nations approximately. So my question is, you said this is good for the economy. How do you reconcile all these bad things for the economy could be good for the economy?
Okay. All right. Mel?
No, it's a great question. And I think that's what's confounding a lot of people is they're looking at all of this and they're saying, why is the unemployment rate not skyrocketing? Why is the weekly jobless claims not going up? And I think that there's a couple of answers to it. Number one, what really does drive at the core of the American economy is two things. It's the government, which is about 24% of GDP. And we talked about the government increasing its spending. And the rest of the GDP, a lot of it is consumer spending. And so the American consumer is notorious for spending so long as they have jobs. And so what a lot of people are worried about is they're saying, well, the economy can hang on as long as people have jobs, but the jobs have to slip away. And what I think is the misstep in that logic is that even though we have some of these negative things that I'm talking about going on, the fundamentals of the labor market are a lot more tight than they normally are. And they're more tight because we essentially cut off the supply of illegal immigrants. And we also have structurally, we have thousands of baby boomers retiring every day. And so the Generation X generation is much smaller than the baby boom generation. So as the baby boomers retire, we actually have people leaving the workforce. And that's keeping the unemployment rate where it's at right now, which is about 4.2%. So if the government's going to keep spending and the consumer's going to keep spending because they have a job, then the economy still marches on. Now, like I said, behind these scenes, we're planting the seeds for this inflation. We're planting the seeds that I think ultimately come home to roost, but not in the time frame that the stock market normally looks at, which is, let's call it 6 to 12 months. So I don't think we're ready to fall off a cliff or head into a recession in the next 6 to 12 months. And as long as that's not the case, the stock market looks at spending in a positive way.
Okay. Be right back. Kate Dalley Show. More with melmattison.com. We'll take your calls. Be right back.
Well, hello, everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure for this, I hope I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
Back, Kate Dalley Show. I know, a little Beatles for you. What can I say? And welcome back to the show. We're live today, and of course, yesterday Memorial Day. Thinking about that, and it's there's so much to Memorial Day, and I appreciate those that reminded us of such. It's not a barbecue weekend, so I love that. It's really to reflect on those that lost their lives. Welcome back. I've got Mel Mattison live today. And of course, the call lines are open, 888-673-1450 if you're listening in the afternoon, tonight on X America News. .com. I'm also working on the ebooks. I promise there was just 30 more steps to take before I could deliver it to you. And so I'm working on it, but I have so many of them. So the ebooks are coming out. They will get onto the website. And it's been a crazy vacation time for everybody, too. So it's hard to get it on the site as well. And so I'm working on it. Trust me, I am working on it diligently also while producing the show. So I just wanted to let you know that. Also go to mypillow.com, and of course the code is Kate, and it makes for great Father's Day gifts because we have Father's Day right around the corner. The slippers, everything, just fantastic things for the man in your life. He will love them. He'll love the slippers in particular, but there's just so many wonderful things there. And then you're also supporting Truth in Radio too. All right, Mel Mattison, you wanted to also disclaim something too from the last segment of the show. Yeah.
Exactly, because the last caller brought up a good point, and he was right. I said, "Oh, it's good for the economy," and I should have chosen my words more correctly, because I didn't necessarily mean these measures are good for the average American, or this is the we're now going on a path to long-term prosperity. What I meant was it's kind of good for the aggregate economic measures that the stock market pays attention to, things like nominal GDP growth, or what's the unemployment rate sitting at, that these types of initiatives, they kind of keep the Ponzi scheme going, and I think, people have listened to me for a while. What I try to do is I see a lot of the same stuff that a lot of the doomsdayers out there see, but I'm not forecasting, a stock market collapse is imminent, because the policymakers, whether it's the central bank or Congress or the Treasury Department, whether it's under a Democrat or a Republican, they have these rabbits that they pull out of their hats. And a lot of people, they thought after the great financial crisis, when we bailed out the banks and we did all of these things, this couldn't last. Eventually we're going to have to pay the piper. And then COVID happened. And we have had to pay the piper. We've paid the piper with inflation after COVID. Anybody that goes to the grocery store knows there was a big price to be paid for all of that COVID spending. But at the end of the day, the quote unquote economy kept rolling on. And so what I'm talking about when I'm saying good for the economy really is not necessarily, oh, this is really the economy that we want, but that this is an economy that is going to keep the banks afloat, that's going to keep the stock market from crashing. And so these measures are reassuring in that sense, but not really producing the type of long-term change that I think the Trump administration really wants to do, but is being blocked from accomplishing it because the entire financial industrial complex, if you will, is standing in their way, whether you're talking about the big banks or the big corporations, or the bond market, or what have you. What might be necessary to really make a big shift in government spending, or really get us manufacturing again, and putting on tariffs and cutting off cheap goods to that stuff just cripples the economy in such a way that I think the administration is feeling a little hamstrung and doesn't have the leeway that maybe it thought it did a couple months ago.
Okay. Caller, go right ahead. You're live with Mel Mattison. All right. Well, I'm trying. I am trying. I really am. The phone lines are just being so weird today. Okay. So, all right. So as far as like what's going on in Ukraine, what's happening over there, what impact is that having, or if any, right now on the economy right now? Any?
Yes, it is having some impact. Because there are certain critical resources that come out of Ukraine. There are rare earths that are locked up there. And, some of the sources that I listen to have speculated that one of the reasons that Trump changed his mind on the China tariffs and agreed to roll those back so much was that the Department of Defense was concerned about some of the rare earth bans that China was putting on us. And so, Trump likes to talk about cards and who holds the cards. And I think one of the things he's learned I think he learned a lot in his first administration, but I don't think he learned everything. And he's learning stuff in the second administration. And he's understanding that the way the economy works, like he doesn't want to send us into a Great Depression and have the stock market and the bond market collapse. And so I think he wanted to put on heavy tariffs and really, keep those in place and drive manufacturing back to the U.S. And on April 9th, when he came out and put the big pause on, I think it was because literally the bond market was getting ready to collapse. Like we were getting ready to head into a type of an economic free fall. Okay. For those that remember, we had the stock market going down over 1,000, 2,000 points on the Dow a day, day after day. Things were not looking pretty. Okay. And he had to step in there. And I think he said, look, Howard Lutnick, Peter Navarro, you're not going to be out in the media as much. Scott Besson is going to run point on this. Right. And we're going to go a little more even keel, because if we don't, we're going to collapse this thing. Interesting. Okay, caller, go right ahead.
All right. Hi. Okay. Hi, Mel. On the economy thing, I read headlines daily, and sometimes I can only read headlines in the first paragraph because it gets so I want to call it, there's certain people out there, and I call it fear porn.
Oh, yeah.
And, there's columnists out there, one person, he never puts his last name on there, but his first name is Michael. It seems he writes 2 or 3 articles a day telling you how the sky is falling. And I don't see it that way. I think, Mel, if you agree with me, I see a gradual, I don't see a calamitous fall. I see a transition into something that is predicated upon some event, but I don't see a 9/11 type event that predicates it. I think we're just going to be lulled into it.
Okay. All right. Let's.
Yeah. What do you think? And what are your thoughts, Mel? I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, go right
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, I think that's one of the things I try to do is not stoke those fears, and then let's say scare people into, going to a bank and taking all of their money out in cash and putting it under a mattress, because the real threat is the dollar debasement and the dollar devaluation, which has been going on for years, and so you have to, and this is part of their plan. This is kind of a feature, not a bug. They want to make people be in a situation where they can't just hold something. And what I say is, if you want to just hold something, don't hold cash, hold gold, because that will keep your purchasing power. But there are other ways to do that, whether it's, with the stock market. And I've always said nobody has to invest in the stock market to be wealthy. I do talk about it, but that's not anything that I'm telling people they need to do. And so we have a situation where the government is slowly eating away the purchasing power, and it's not this big cliff drop off like you mentioned. It's this slow eroding of the monetary base. Okay. We're going to come right back. We'll take your calls, more with Mel Mattison when we come back. Janet Phelan coming up in the next hour. The targeting of poison in our water, how they can actually target it where they want it. And of course, if you're going to buy gold and silver, help the show at the same time. There'll be a link on the site. It's going to probably go up in the next 24 hours. Do it through this company. I trust this company. They're awesome, by the way, for various reasons. And I'll be disclosing that tomorrow. But hold your purchase for 24 hours. Be right back. Kate Dalley Show.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day, and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
Halfway through 2025, can you believe it? And welcome back. Of course, phone lines are open. We'll try to take some callers, and can't wait for you to call in. Actually, I've got Mel Mattison. I also wanted to mention the teeth remineralization mouthwash whitener. It is awesome. Remineralizes your teeth. 85% of our diseases come from the mouth. And I know you realize that. I had a wonderful doctor on that described all of this, and she has a remineralization. If you're wondering why my teeth are white, I use this. It's amazing. And I'm telling you that you need to remineralize your teeth. Get rid of all those little tiny cavities and things that could be growing. And also your teeth just need it, especially at our age, right? So go to my website. You'll see remineralization. Look for that ad and then click on that. And I promise you, you're just going to absolutely love it. You're going to absolutely love it. So let's start off with the caller, Mel. Okay. Oh, by the way, on the remineralization, the code is Kate Dalley 10. So there you go. Okay. So caller, go right ahead. Question for Mel.
Hey, greetings, Kate.
Hi
Greetings,
there.
Mel.
Hi.
Mel, the Federal Reserve, as I understand it, is a foreign corporation, correct?
It's the banks, the 12 regional banks are completely private organizations that are owned by the member banks, which are JP Morgan, Citibank, and who owns those is a mixture of foreign and domestic people. So ultimately, who owns the Federal Reserve is wealthy individuals all around the world.
Got it. Foreign individuals, and when they get money, they basically have the Treasury send the Bureau of Engraving an order of a pallet of paper that's printed and converted into currency. And then we, the people, are on the hook. In other words, they don't actually have any real physical, anything of value they put into this whole scheme. So if we pull an Iceland, give them 40, I'm generous, 48 hours to exit stage left or start loading them up on ICE vans, then we can go back to constitutional money, declare the whole thing a fraud. We can revert back to the original 13th Amendment, or we'll just go 13.1 is the current thing and go back to 13, where we eliminate all these people with titles of nobility from holding any public office of trust since they're not worthy.
Okay. Interesting.
This republic back. What do you think?
Okay.
Well, the Federal Reserve is interesting because the Federal Reserve, in my viewpoint on things, it is a big sham to give this illusion that there's some sort of constraint on the government or Powell is somehow this independent person out there. And what the Federal Reserve does do, to your point of who owns the Federal Reserve, is it tends to protect the interests of wealthy people around the world. It tends to, its main function really is to set the interest rates. So there was a point in time when we were on the gold standard, when central banks owned gold, they borrowed gold from wealthy people so that the central bank could then loan the gold to the United States. And so when gold was money, the United States needed the central bank to be its banker and provide it with gold. Once gold went away completely in the 1970s from backing our currency, then there really became no need for a central bank. And so what they've done is they've profligated this kind of ruse on the American people where they act like the central bank is somehow controlling the economy behind the scenes. I don't think that there's anything like that. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the Federal Reserve raising interest rates is what brought down inflation at all. I don't think Jay Powell saying, oh, we're moving interest rates from 1% to 4%, and that's why inflation went from 9% down to 3% or whatever lie the government tells you the inflation rate is, right? Because we know it wasn't 9% in 2022. When homes go up 20% in a year, you know the government inflation rate is not 9%. Groceries, everything was up like 20% that year. And they told us it was only up 6 or 7% for the whole year. So all these things are ruses, and they're all things to make us think that there's some sort of people controlling things, and this is why money needs to be this way, or we have this deficit. The reason why the inflation went down is because oil went down. I mean, oil's at like $60 a barrel right now. It was $120 a barrel in 2022. Oil gets cut in half, cuts the energy price in half. I mean, go to your local gas station. What are you paying now compared to what you were a few years ago? So when these things start hitting the economy, you start having inflation come down. And that's really what's driving this whole thing. But one way somebody put it was, the Federal Reserve is a little bit like the kid in the passenger seat of a car with a toy steering wheel. And what's really driving the economy is government and consumer spending, like I talked about. As long as the government and the consumer keep spending, the economy keeps rolling along. And the guy in the Federal Reserve is sitting there in the child seat with the toy steering wheel, acting like he's making a left turn. And everybody thinks he is, and thinks he's some sort of a god. And the reality is that he's a big illusion. This is the Wizard of Oz. He's the man behind the curtain. And that's really what the Wizard of Oz was about. It was a monetary allegory where the yellow brick road represented the gold standard, the Emerald City represented green money, which is fake. The wizard was the central bankers behind the scenes with no real power. This was the whole idea of it, and people just still buy into this illusion like, oh, Powell, if he cuts rates, the economy is going to really take off. It doesn't have to do with rates. It has to do with spending, and that's the consumer and the government who do the spending.
Amen, brother. Most people don't. I wonder how many people out there don't know that the Wizard of Oz was an allegory. Maybe they don't, but I've done shows on that. It's very, very compelling, actually, what that was about. So, interesting. And there was a guy doing.
It had the silver slippers.
Yeah.
In the book, this was in the late 1800s, early 1900s. People wanted silver to continue being official money. And the big London bankers didn't want silver. They only wanted gold, because the United States had huge silver mines out west in places like Nevada and Utah, where you are. And so the U.S. was getting all this silver, and London didn't like it. And they said, no, silver's not money. It's only gold. And that's why in the book, Dorothy wears silver slippers, not ruby slippers. And that's the way she gets home, is by using silver as money. And so this is really what that whole allegory was about. The scarecrow represented like agricultural America, the Tin Man manufacturing industrial America. And so this is what was going on. And I think it's not that much has changed. It's still the same sort of illusion. They've just taken the gold out of it, and now they're using the Federal Reserve as if there's some masters behind the scenes.
Love it. Interesting. Mel Mattison, go to melmattison.com. Go get the book Quaz. Great summer read. If you're up for that, great summer read. And can't say that strongly enough. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. And of course, I'll be right back with Janet Phelan. Don't go anywhere. Kate Dalley Show. We're talking water. This is so fascinating. Be right back. KateDalleyRadio.com.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard My Pillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use My Pillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
The Kellogg's brothers, and it was actually these companies that convinced people the healthiest way to start your morning was a bowl of cereal with milk.
Like where I grew up in Arkansas, there was no black or white. We're all broke, okay? What's your color? Poor, okay? That's the truth of the matter, When you eat your cereal out of a Cool Whip bowl stained with chili or spaghetti sauce, does it really matter if you're black or you're white? You're broke.
My boy, they all went to Christian school, and they would teach my children about intentional dating. I never heard of that. I dated anybody that bought me a hamburger.
All right, welcome, Kate Dalley Show. And I just wanted to say that clip has nothing to do with this hour, but I just thought all three were funny or fascinating. So there you go. And I also have a guest for you in this hour that you're going to want to hear. She is, she's got some amazing information, and Janet Phelan. And let me just say a few things about her before I'm going to invite her on, and then you're just going to hear from her because she's amazing. From the lead pipes of Flint, Michigan, to the Water Commission in Medford, Oregon, to secret psychiatric wards at UCLA. She is a journalist with actual journalism integrity, and of course water. We're going to talk about water, and of course she has been she's had articles everywhere, and let me just say you can go to her book as well at the breaking point of history, Janet Phelan, and learn so much more. But she also talks about the targeting of poisons and toxins in our water and how it's actually targeted. So I cannot wait to hear about this from her. And I also just want to thank her for coming on, and I appreciate all the work she's doing. And she's appeared on Coast to Coast and all kinds of different outlets. And so I'm excited to have her on. Janet, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. Let's talk water, shall we?
Thank you so much, Kate, for having me on the show. This is a very hard sell article. This is actually a hard sell piece of information because as corrupt as we understand that our government and the governments of the world are now, we don't want to believe that they've actually deliberately invested in depopulation. And this is exactly what this information reveals. I have been working this story for a number of years now. It has resulted in a huge situation in my own life. But nevertheless, I remain absolutely firm on what it is that I've uncovered, which is actually goes to support the contention that was raised quite a bit during the years of COVID, that there is deliberation on the part of government in using available technology to depopulate the planet. So without further comment, I'm going to go into some of the particulars of the system that I've uncovered. So what this work particularly focuses on is the setting up of a double-line water system. Now, why is that significant? Well, as we know, there is a main line running down every street in America, which has service lines which go into the house. And so we get water that way. So what is the significance of a second line? Well, apparently there is a huge significance to the existence of a second line, because the way that this system is configured, and there are blueprints in the book and also in some articles which I put online, this second line does not contain water, and whatever is in this second line, whether it's LSD or COVID or arsenic or vodka, whatever it is being withheld at this point in time by remote control valves. Now, this sounds like science fiction, except that the blueprints, which I have been able, through some stealth, to obtain, absolutely support this contention. So we have a system set up where your house, Kate, can be targeted through the opening of this valve and the release of whatever is in that second line into your house, and you could end up incapacitated or worse because of this. And nobody would know that this would have been the intent and the result of this assassination attempt.
Wow.
So,
okay. So the question is, how long has this been going on?
That's a very good question. I became aware of this around 2003, according to another individual who has been working on the COVID crisis, but has not come forward with this information, and that is Dr. David Martin. In a private conversation with me, he revealed that he also became aware of this system around 2004. So how long has it been in existence? Well, my understanding, because it takes a massive amount of work to put a double line in every community in America, not to mention the fact that this has been exported to other countries as well. So my understanding is that work on this system began in, shall we say, the early mid-70s, when Tricky Dick Nixon announced to the world that he was abandoning the U.S.'s offensive biological weapons program completely. And shortly after that, after this announcement that he made, the Biological Weapons Convention, which is the UN convention governing the deployment of biological weapons, it came into existence. So if you start tracing back to the 1970s, and I spent several months going through WikiLeaks cable releases, looking at the outreaches made mostly by Henry Kissinger under the reign of Richard Nixon to other sovereign countries offering our assistance in setting up water systems. So my gut understanding is that this began in the mid-70s and has now come to fruition.
Okay. So here's a question for you. So as far as fluoride really got going in the 70s and 80s, right? So I want you to answer that, but also answer what is the official story of the second line, or have not that many people realize there's a second line? Is there official narrative that they say that the reason for that would be?
Well, my understanding and my research indicates that the government is denying the existence of the second line. And this raises multiple levels of alarm. I have made numerous Public Records Act requests at numerous city water departments trying to get records. And the records that I get from these cities typically show one line only. In fact, I have a letter from the city of Los Angeles, and I've archived this in the book you mentioned at the Breaking Point of History, in which they are responding to a Public Records Act request I've made and saying that it will take them a few weeks to get the records over to me because they have to redact information, and they are creating entirely new blueprints for me. Unbeknownst to the city of Los Angeles, I had already secured through a backdoor, which I will explain in a moment how I created this backdoor. I had secured the bona fide blueprints. So when you compare the bona fide blueprints, which I got through hanging around city crews, chatting up the foreman. Oh, I just think it's wonderful, this work they're doing. Can I see the blueprints? Oh my gosh, here I've got a camera. I'm going to take some quick pictures and then I'm going to run. So that's how I got the blueprints, the actual blueprints. So when the blueprints, the same ones for the same area that I had already created the back door and gotten the real blueprint showing two lines. When they came in from the city of Los Angeles showing one line only, I realized that the significance. Furthermore, there was a piece of legislation that was passed, I believe around 2002, which makes it a federal crime punishable by prison time for any government employee to release information about critical infrastructure. Now, apparently, the second line is critical infrastructure. They have no problem at all revealing the existence of the first line.
Okay, we're going to come right back. More with Janet Phelan when we come back. This is fascinating, is it not? Be right back on the Kate Dalley Show, katedalleyradio.com. The book is At the Breaking Point of History. Be right back.
Well, hello everybody. It's Annie Cyrus. Welcome to my art studio where all the magic happens. This is the station for painting, and that is the station for all the resin art I do. If you want to check out my art, all you gotta do is go to lutfstudio.com. But I'm sure for this, I hope I'll see you at lutfstudio.com.
It's important info, and Janet Phelan is with me. And of course, I just wanted to mention, you know how I feel about pharma. I've made it extremely clear over the 15 years. But ivermectin and fenbenzynol are all right, and I would get those, and you can get as much as you want, and you can go and order it. It's a doctor's script that comes right to your house because they have them in-house. And they're right from Florida. And so you can actually, this is the only pharmacy I've ever recommended on the air as far as that goes. Don't go out of the country. You can actually go right here and get it, and you can get as much as you want. They also do hormones and things like that if you need those as well. So make sure and go to allfamilypharmacy.com/Kate. Use the code Kate, then the number 10, Kate 10, all one, and you'll get 10% off on that. And you'll get them in 3 to 4 days. And it's always great to have that on hand and be taking it as well a couple times a year and for your loved ones as well. So I have Janet with me, and she was just describing to me a meeting that took place. Janet, I'll let you take it from here. We're talking about water in the a second line that is not disclosed as part of the infrastructure, the water infrastructure. Go right ahead, Janet.
Right. So we were talking about a meeting that took place in Medford, Oregon with the Water Commission there. I was at that point, this was a number of years ago, and I was living and working at a newspaper in Medford, Oregon. And I had developed my back door, so I had the real blueprints showing 2 lines. So I marched myself into the Medford Water Commission, and they're so nice there, they'll give you the blueprints free of charge, which only show 1 line. So I had this massive discrepancy. I had the official blueprints, which show 1 line only, and I had the real blueprints, which I had developed, I'd gotten through my back door, which showed the two main lines. So I had a meeting with Laura Hodnett, who was the public information specialist, and also with the chief engineer. And I'm holding up these 2 separate blueprints of the exact same block, 2 two main lines, and it's a main line, and I'm asking, how do you explain this? And they were really having a hard time. It was like that segment in George Orwell's book where the government perpetrator holds up two fingers and says, "This is three. This is three." So they were, really having a hard time dealing with the discrepancy. So finally, what I said was, I read them the federal law that was passed in 2002, making disclosure of critical infrastructure a federal offense. And I said, is this what is governing your responses here? And as if by cue, both individuals stood up, said, this meeting is over, and they marched out of the room. So one is having a really hard time getting government to cop to the fact of what they've done, because obviously these people were afraid of going to prison.
Okay. Oh
so
my God.
The question is, what is in that second line? What is so dangerous about that second line that they have to, go into these enormous sorts of contortions in order to try to dissuade us that this is what they've done? So that's the question.
Wow. Okay. I have so many questions. I know the audience does too. We will try to take some phone calls, but this is extraordinary information because it kind of goes back, remember when they were always checking COVID in the water and in the in the sewer? And I thought that was one of the weirdest things because I don't believe the whole bloated narrative anyway, the COVID narrative. I think the whole thing was just a complete and total lie. But it was interesting every time they checked the water, and I don't know, it just brings back my discussions with Brian Dr. Artis as well. Be right back with Janet Phelan. You're not going to want to miss this. Be right back. Kate Dalley Show.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you.
If you've listened to this show for years, you know that you knew I was going to play this song, right? All right, welcome back to the show. And of course, if you want to flag, NorthPoleFlagpoles.com. NorthPoleFlagpoles.com. Do it because he's got the most beautiful flags and the most beautiful poles, and you can get one for your RV, and you can get one for your car, your truck, and the kits that go along with it. And you're going to absolutely love working with him. NorthPoleFlagpoles.com. Give him a call, talk to him. He's amazing, total patriot, and that's a place to get an American flag. And there's no better time than right now for this coming Independence Day as well. All right, so I have Janet Phelan. You went to Geneva, Switzerland, and before you talk about what happened there in 2016 was the latest that you went. Talk about how you got credentials to go there, because I love this story. This is amazing. Janet?
Right. Actually, I went in 2011 and again in 2016. And I was tutored how to get credentials. I actually declared myself an NGO. I got a co-chair. I got somebody with a medical degree to agree to be a co-chair. And I applied as an NGO, because if I had gone as press, and I am, this is my stated career, I am a member of the press, I would have ended up being funneled to the peanut gallery with duct tape over my face. So as I went as an NGO, I was able to address the assembly, the convention at large, and I was able to make a presentation on both occasions, which I certainly did. So just in case anybody else wants to engage the UN on any issue, this is apparently the way to do it. So yes, so I went with the stated goal of letting the nations of the world know what I had found out about the U.S. water systems. But along the way, I found out some very interesting things about the United States and its, shall we say, its integrity or lack thereof in what it was putting on the record at the Biological Weapons Convention. For example, there is a section in the USA Patriot Act, which we know was passed after the attacks of September 11th and after the anthrax attacks, which is Section 817. It is the expansion of the Biological Weapons Statute. And it has a very strange caveat at the end in which it states that the prohibitions contained in this section shall not apply to any duly authorized U.S. governmental activity. In other words, all of the prohibitions contained in the Biological Weapons Statute don't apply to the U.S. So this is actually stunning. And what I found out at the UN in Geneva, Switzerland, was that there was something, there was a mechanism by which the U.S. was compelled to report any changes in biological weapons activity, including changes in legislation. Now, this is a big change in legislation because, the U.S. has essentially declared itself immune from prosecution or any culpability for violating its own biological weapons laws. So what I found out was that the U.S. had neglected, forgotten to inform the convention at large of this shocking change in law. In fact, I had an interview with a delegate from the U.S. government, State Department. His name was Chris Park, and he was explaining to me, well, it was just an oversight, we just forgot. So that was interesting to me, that because this was a big red tell. This legislation is a huge issue. And anyone who wants to look over the USA Patriot Act can find it at Section 817. It was not reported in the press.
I have a quick question for you. And that is it's common for residential properties, right, to have a secondary water line for, you might want to mute me just for a second, a second water line for irrigation, known as secondary water. How does that play into this? Because I have a feeling there's going to be people out there that go, oh, that's just the irrigation water system. What are your thoughts?
I'm really glad you brought that up because, in fact, it is not. Because the system you described, which exists and is bona fide, relies on multiple service lines going into the residence. And, this is for the transportation of the non-potable water, which can be used for irrigation. It can be used to wash the toilet. But This double-line water system that I am reporting on only shows one line into the house. So whatever is in that second line is being mixed up with drinking water, with the water you shower in, with any water that has the capability of contaminating your body. So there is a big difference between the two systems. I'm really glad you brought that up.
Sure. Okay, here's another one for you, and that is I referenced COVID. They were constantly checking the water, which I thought was very, very weird. Did you want to give your thoughts on that? We have 2 minutes remaining in this clip before we come back for another one. But in this segment of the show, but I just wanted to get your thoughts. What were you thinking at the time when they kept checking the water? I was like, what are you guys doing? I thought it was weird.
Well, it was weird, and it raises some questions about what they were actually looking for, and why they were doing that. I understand that the official story was that people were evacuating into their toilets and so forth, and they were checking the levels of COVID. Well, possibly not.
Yeah,
it's hard to say. It's really hard to say.
Yeah, I thought that was just curious, and I know Artis thought so too. And so Dr. Artis, he just thought that was just a really strange thing that they just kept going after checking the bacterial level. It's just really strange. But when we come back, of course, there's so much more on this. In fact, I just wanted to mention her book, At the Breaking Point of History. You can get it on Amazon. And of course, there's just so much to this to start thinking about because of the fact that they're hiding it so much. And so if there was any kind of tell on this, it's why are they hiding it? And it's so curious. I'm so glad that you got access, though, to that meeting. And I loved how you did it, the story about how you did that, because I thought it was genius. And to provide yourself an NGO to get in instead of being a journalist. So I love that. We're going to come right back. We'll finish up this hour with Janet Phelan. And of course, it's just crazy, isn't it? I mean, the fact that they may be hiding all of this across the country. Be right back. Kate Dalley Show. And for so long. Be right back.
I hear every day about the products you all wish My Pillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard My Pillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use My Pillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all My Pillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard My Pillows absolutely free.
You can also watch it on Rumble and YouTube. And then, of course, I've got this wonderful guest, Janet Phelan, with me. And I'm so happy to have her on because this is big information. I'm hoping that everyone's just kind of taking this in, and I'm sure a lot of questions are swirling. And of course, Janet, what do you want people to know about this? And in fact, you've been covering this for a lot of years, trying to let people understand and know of their capabilities. And so what are some of the insights and conclusions that you've come to? And then maybe I'll take the caller on hold, but go ahead, please.
Right. Well, we have a situation in the U.S. where we have a melting pot. So we have, people of color living next door to rabbis, living next door to Christian patriots. Mm-hmm. We have a whole mixture of people. And if, let's say, hypothetically, that there's an agenda to shall we say, remove certain types of people from the mix, this would be an excellent way to do that, because you have plausible deniability. You can declare a pandemic. People can end up, dead from multiple causes, as they did during the COVID pandemic. In fact, in my conversations, I have had some some conversations with Lucia Weisberger, who is a medical researcher out of New York. And it was her conversations with Dr. David Martin which alerted me to the fact, because he told her that some of the people who died in New York City due to quote-unquote COVID actually died from water. And he repeated this to me. So, unfortunately, we are living in a world of lies. Mm-hmm. And, it is really my hope that by bringing forth this information, we can protect people.
Okay, let me go ahead and take this caller. Go ahead.
Before I get to my question, I want to bring to your attention, Janet, and thank you for this information. You call it a big information. That's an understatement, Kate. Yeah. If it's all true. This law, by the way, Janet, is those laws you mentioned, all of them are null and void. There is no authority in the Constitution for the federal government to have any authority over
right.
home
What's your quick question?
Yeah. The questions, if you can address any of these questions, do you know what percentage homes have these lines? Do you have any idea what they can put or are putting in these lines? Could it be possible that if we have bottled water, can we avoid this problem? Okay. Or is our skin absorb the toxins? So what are the toxins and other sources you may have for this information?
Thank you. Excellent question. Thank you. Go right ahead, Janet.
Right. What I have documented is the capability to provide this extra line, which has a questionable, they can run anything they want to through that second line. So, no, I don't know what the toxin is. We do know that we ended up with a lot of dead people during the pandemic. And according to my sources, some of them were murdered by various means, including I can't pronounce it.
Remdesivir.
Thank you. And also through intubation, and also apparently by water. So no, I have not been able to determine what toxin they are using, and frankly, they can change it at any time. Furthermore, for your other question concerning the percentage of houses that have this, everywhere I looked in the United States, this system exists. It has also been exported from my understanding and my research, it has been exported to Canada, to Switzerland, to post-invasion Iraq. It has been found in Tel Aviv and in at least one capital city in Latin America. Is this a complete list? I doubt it.
Wow.
So,
holy cow. All right. We've got 3 minutes. We've got 3 minutes remaining. And so what do you want people to know, and what can they do? And like you said, I wonder if there's anything that we could do on this. And, it's plausible deniability, like you said. So there's going to be a lot of people doing the water that do not think that this is, anything nefarious, right? Because they don't think this is actually happening. So they've set it up beautifully. And I say that sarcastically because they've set up this plausible deniability for this. So you could be a water person and only think that there's the one line going in, although there are the two. So people had to construct that.
In the furtherance of disclosing the reality of this. I have an appendix in the book in which I put various water blueprints from various different communities. I also put very, very peculiar letters back and forth between city agencies. For example, Santa Monica, California, where I first made my very first Public Records Act request, they wrote me back saying, "We don't have any water records." Really?
Really?
They don't have any water records in Santa Monica, California. That's almost as outrageous as the next door city, Los Angeles, saying, "Oh yeah, we'll give you the water blueprints. We just need a few weeks to create entirely new blueprints for you." I mean, so my purpose here is to expand people's awareness.
Whoops. Did we lose you? Oh, there you go.
Already had.
Right. We're
from various.
Janet, I thank you. The audio is getting weird, and so I'll have to. We're gonna tie this up in 10 seconds anyway. I so appreciate you coming on. Thank you for that. We're having troubles with the audio today, so apologize for that. The book is At the Breaking Point of History. Go get that book. Also, write a review of that book so that more people see that. I would really appreciate that. Janet Phelan, amazing hour. And of course, go to the show, katedalleyradio.com for the podcast. Share the heck out of this hour, please. And of course, I'll see you here tomorrow. katedalleyradio.com. Be faithful.